whatever platform that you are joining in on. We are so happy that you're here. Oh my gosh, we have someone from Japan. Can you believe that? We are truly, truly reaching people around the world. That is an incredible thing. You never think that as much as we hate social media, right? Look at what it's doing. It's bringing all of us together. So, all right. Is it 9? Is it time to start? Let's do it, Brittany.
Okay, and do we have interpretation tonight? If we do have interpretation, Nella, if you're here, make yourself known so I can get that going.
I just
But
saw Australia. Oh my
I
God.
saw that's so amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna click record, you'll hear it, and then you can go, Shannon.
All right. Okay. We're about to record. There we go. Welcome, everyone. My name is Shannon. I am a dietitian. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have never been a part of something that as amazing as this family, as this mission. We are all here to get healthy. So tonight you are going to hear some incredible stories from people just like you, just like me, who found this protocol, gave it a try, and their life is forever changed. We're also going to hear from an amazing human who is now one of my dearest friends. And guess where I found her? Here on social media. But she comes from around the world. And we're going to get to hear her story. We're going to get to hear her beautiful accent. And you are going to learn something incredible tonight. So I hope that you leave here a little bit smarter than you came. What we're going to do is I'm going to introduce her. She's going to bring on a customer of hers, and then she is going to tell her story, and then we are going to get educated. I'm going to bring on an amazing person to tell his story. We're going to learn a little bit about what products we're talking about, and then we're going to allow time for y'all to ask your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mikhail Offer. It's not really Mikhail. I just can't say it properly. So she provides forgiveness for me every day. I'm going to let her tell you how to roll that tongue, and then we're going to let her teach her story. So Mikhail, welcome, my friend.
Oh, Shannon, it's so great to be here and such a warm welcome. I am so excited to be part of this call and to be part of this family and to be here chatting with everybody. I'm seeing people from all over the world, and just like you, we never get to see people when we do lives or when we do Zoom. So this is absolutely fantastic. My name is Michal Offer. I am a nutritionist. This isn't my first career, it's my second. I found this through being a nutritionist, through a health journey, but I still could never 100% recover or find full remission. I always had a little bit of a few little problems, and a couple of years ago Shannon found me on social media, and I make a joke about it, but it's true. She wouldn't leave me alone. And eventually I decided to listen to her, and quite smartly, because although I haven't struggled with weight issues or dysregulated insulin issues, which you might hear about on tonight's call, I had severe gut issues and a really, really bad gallbladder issue that has since pretty much found its way to resolution since using the protocol. So needless to say, I'm a fan. I started including it in my business and with my clients, and things have exploded ever since, because not only am I still able to help people, I'm able to help people better with something that's absolutely wonderful. And without further ado, because I don't want to get too much into myself and we have so much information to cover tonight, I am going to introduce one of my favorite clients. Her name is Jennifer, and she found me on social media too. And let me pull her up, and I want her to tell you her story. Shannon, do you see Jennifer there?
Jennifer, if you're there, let's see.
She's there.
There she is.
Hello.
It's so great to meet you, and I'm so excited for you to share your story because it's so inspirational. Jen is one of the hardest workers on her health that I know. So let's start with what was life like before the system and some of the health struggles that you had and some of the health journeys that you went on.
Oh, we don't have enough time to talk about all that. Um, a little bit about my background. I was at one point 291 pounds, pretty much did every diet that you could ever do. And I think I shared with you to the point of starving myself. A lot of that also the mental games that go into how we want to look, how we want to be perceived. And thank goodness I found you on social media. And I mean that with my heart of hearts. I am blessed. And I actually started the protocol very slowly. I think because I was unsure. And then I slowly started seeing things happening. About a month in, I spent time today doing a timeline to really see what exactly the timeline was. So, a month into doing the protocol, fully engaged in that, my energy levels really started to just feel so much better. 2 months in, my sleep, I could sleep through the night and just, it was wonderful. My mood began to improve. And then you and I talk about this a lot. Right around the fourth month, my focus and my clarity. I'm an avid golfer. I do that 4 or 5 times a week. And as I think I joke with all my friends, if I can leave my brain out of the game, I do fairly well. I have found with the protocol that clarity and mental focus is absolutely amazing. Um, what's really tremendous, I didn't have hopes that it would help my gut health at the 5 month mark. Oh, yes, it did. It absolutely did. And I'm happy to say now at the 6 month, I'm actually finding a mind and body connection that is it it's just amazing. And by that I mean today I was out golfing 18 holes, 98-degree weather in Florida. The humidity was up to 115. And my body, yes, I was warm. I can't say I wasn't warm. I was warm, but my body can maintain that and has the stamina to do that where I don't feel lethargic anymore. Um, and let's see, the weight, that's an added bonus. Now I am no longer starving myself. I eat real food. I eat very healthy thanks to your help. And my weight is about 139 pounds. And I couldn't be happier because, as you know, I'm heading off to Italy at the end of the month.
Well, that's amazing. And I'd like everybody to note that the weight was the last thing that Jen mentioned. Tell us a little bit about blood markers, because you've had some blood work done since you started
I
the
did
program,
have all my
right?
blood work done, and those I've been working on, the cholesterol and all of that. All those markers came down, and what's really good and exciting for me for the first time in my life is the weight is coming down, but the muscle is going up. So that's really fantastic.
Right. And I've just pulled up your before and after there so people can really see the difference, which is which is fantastic. And I'll stop sharing that now. Because I like seeing your beautiful face. You'd also mentioned something to us about coffee. What's
I no longer need to drink, not need. I mean, I love the smell of it. My husband has coffee in the morning, but I don't need it. The yerba mate is just, oh, it's just wonderful.
so the big question then is for somebody like you who came in a little skeptical, who's tried absolutely everything, who's looking to optimize their health, what would you say to somebody sitting on the fence?
Hmm. You just have to do it. Just do it. And when I say do it, I mean, I lost a good 3 months there because I would do a packet here and I'd say, oh, we'll see if it does anything. You have to commit to doing it and trust that it'll work. It, it works. It absolutely does.
You are absolutely living proof. You look Wonderful and fantastic. I have to tell you, your skin is glowing, and that's what I see. I see the biggest difference. So thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story and
Oh, thank
for
you.
offering some encouragement to everybody here.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So now we're going to get on to the science portion of our presentation tonight. And I'm going to be talking about feeding the mind, nutrition, and the brain. So I will be sharing my screen. Shannon, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and just tell me that you can see my screen for sure once
Okay.
I've got it up. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Give me just a second here. Oh, goodness.
You're okay.
All right.
We can see it.
You can see it. I'm going to start with the slideshow over there.
You
That
got
works?
it. Perfect. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm going to mute all the videos because I still see everybody, which is wonderful, but mainly because it will distract me seeing everybody's beautiful faces. So when most people think about memory loss, they think that it begins in the brain, but I think that's far too late in the story. The conditions that shape people's brain, and I wanted to add, I've got a lot of information to cover, and I'm going to be talking really fast. So access the recording if you need, or ask the person who invited you to send you the recording if you need to review, because I know I will be talking quite quickly. So what I wanted to say was the conditions that shape brain health often begin years before memory loss begins. It starts in the bloodstream, in the liver, in the muscles, and even in the gut. And what we eat influences the fuels reaching the brain, the hormones that the brain responds to, the fats that the brain uses to build its membranes, and the signals that come from our gut microbes. Now, tonight isn't about finding that magical brain food. It's about understanding that the brain is part of the body's metabolism. And if the metabolism is struggling, the brain doesn't get to sit safely on the sidelines. So before I begin, I wanted you guys to go into the chat and put a 1 if you've ever struggled with brain fog or poor concentration or forgetfulness. And I'm going to have a look and see. And I'm sure a whole bunch of you have. I'm not going to say that's brilliant. I'm glad that so many have responded. Now, how many of you have attributed that to age? Put a 2 in the chat if you think that's simply part of getting older. There you go. Well, age is one of the variables, but it's definitely not the one that we can influence the most. And that will take us to the beginning of our presentation tonight. And I'm just going to minimize that chat because we're going to begin with the symptoms that people often dismiss. So the brain is part of your metabolism, and brain fog isn't always just age. Brain fog is a metabolic signal. So think about your classic, even healthy, high carbohydrate breakfast. You've got oats, maybe toast, maybe some fruit or some yogurt, juice, a latte. You feel energized briefly, and then 2 or 3 hours later, you're tired, you're distracted, and you're looking for something else to eat, right? Now, the brain has an enormous energy demand. It needs a stable supply of fuel, healthy circulation, and effective signaling. Repeated glucose spikes and crashes affect the brain energy. They affect your mood, they affect your hunger, and they affect your concentration long before somebody ever receives a diagnosis of diabetes. Now, I'm not trying to say it's about one bad meal. One bad meal doesn't damage the brain. The concern is the metabolic environment we create repeatedly, meal after meal, year after year. And the central metabolic problem is not simply high blood sugar. It's insulin resistance. Now, this is really important because diabetes isn't the first chapter of insulin resistance. Diabetes comes much later. Now, we often think about insulin as the hormone that lowers blood glucose. And that's true, but it's incomplete. Insulin is also a nutrient storage and signaling hormone. So after we eat, especially after we eat carbohydrate, insulin tells tissues that fuel has arrived, and it helps move the glucose out of the bloodstream. Now, When cells are repeatedly exposed to high insulin demand, they can become less responsive to the signal. The pancreas then compensates by producing more and more insulin. And for years, glucose may still look normal because the pancreas is working overtime to keep it there. And this is often why normal fasting blood sugar or fasting blood glucose doesn't always mean normal insulin sensitivity. Type 2 diabetes, oh, I'm sorry, I missed a whole line there. So impaired insulin signaling affects cognition. It affects the brain. It affects how the brain thinks. And type 2 diabetes is consistently associated with a substantially higher risk of dementia. Normal glucose can hide for years because of excessive insulin demand. Now, if insulin resistance matters, the next question is obvious. What keeps demanding insulin all day? Now, most digestible carbohydrates are broken down into glucose. As glucose enters the bloodstream, insulin responds. The problem is not that insulin rises after food. That's absolutely normal. The problem is repeatedly asking for a large insulin response. Breakfast, lunch, snack, lunch, dinner, something before bed, right? We're eating all the time. You never give the system time to come down to baseline. Frequent eating, refined carbohydrates, poor sleep, inactivity, and excess energy can all contribute. But carbohydrate quality matters a lot because some foods become glucose much faster than what's written on the healthy label on the package. So you need to ask yourself, how quickly does the food that you're eating become glucose? How large is your portion? And how does this affect you as an individual? Your metabolism doesn't care whether the carbohydrate had a great marketing team or not. And this is why the word complex can be deeply misleading. For decades, we've been given a simple rule. Sugar is bad, but complex carbohydrates are good. Unfortunately, the biology isn't quite as simple as that. Complex carbohydrates describe the chemical structure of a carbohydrate. It doesn't guarantee a slow or gentle glucose response. Once a grain has been ground into a flour, puffed, flaked, extruded, or baked into bread, much of the digestive work has already been done for you. Your enzymes have an enormous surface to attack, and the glucose enters the bloodstream really, really fast. And what this means is that whole grain is a category. It's not a metabolic guarantee. And processing matters. The size of the particles matter. Cooking matters. Ripeness matters. Steel-cut oats, instant oats, and sweetened little oat packages, they're all called oats, right? But they're not metabolically identical. And an intact apple and apple juice both come from the same fruit, but removing the structure changes the speed and the ease with which the sugar arrives. So the practical lesson isn't that every carbohydrate is good or bad. It's that we should stop judging carbohydrates by the language on the package. So natural or multigrain or ancient grain or heart healthy or whole grain don't tell you what happened to the glucose or what happens to your insulin. Your metabolism reads the food. It doesn't read the label. The good news is that we can change what happens after a meal relatively quickly. Why? Because muscle is one of the largest places that your body can put glucose. Start with your meal before that. Prioritize your protein. Reduce your refined starch. Eat an amount of carbohydrate that is appropriate for you and your metabolism. Add some fiber before a carbohydrate-containing meal. This will help to blunt the rise for everybody, right? When muscle contracts, it increases glucose uptake. And this is why 10 to 15 minutes of movement, even a walk after meals, can really make a very meaningful difference to your glucose response. And meal timing and sleep matter. Muscle isn't just for movement, it's metabolic protection. And fuel matters, but the physical material used to build the brain matters too. And this is where we learn that your brain is built from fat. The brain is lipid rich. Myelin, which is the sheath that insulates the nerves, is made from fat. And every cell membrane in your brain depends on fats. Now, think of the neuron as an electrical wire. The myelin is the insulation, while the cell membrane is the gatekeeper controlling the movement, the signaling, and the communication. This doesn't mean that dietary fat is all equal and adding gobs and gobs of it is beneficial or automatically therapeutic. It does mean that the old idea that fat is merely excess calories misses its structural and signaling roles. Fat isn't just fuel. Fat is structure, and fat is information. And this brings us to one of the most misunderstood lipid molecules that we know of. And you guessed it, it's cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a toxin. Cholesterol is essential for cell membranes, for synapses, for myelin, for steroid hormone production. About 25% of the body's cholesterol is in the brain, and the brain makes a large portion of its cholesterol itself. It's a precursor for all of your steroid hormones and for your vitamin D. Cholesterol is an essential molecule, and we shouldn't be vilifying it. Yes, context matters, but it's important to understand that without cholesterol, your brain cannot function. The next tool is not a nutrient at all, but it's time without incoming food. Fasting gives your brain a fuel switch. Fasting is not starvation, it's not punishment, and it's not proof of moral superiority. It's simply a period without incoming food or without incoming energy. During that period, insulin falls and stored fuel becomes more accessible. The body begins shifting from recently eating glucose towards stored fat and towards ketones. Now, you may have heard of terms like autophagy or cellular stress response, and these pathways are real, but social media has given them a precise stopwatch, and human research really doesn't support that. Start simply, finish dinner, stop snacking, and allow a minimum of a 12-hour overnight fast before chasing aggressive protocols. Now, stop asking whether you need to eat breakfast and start asking whether your eating window is serving a purpose. Now, with lower carbohydrate availability, the liver starts to produce another fuel for the brain. And this fuel is known as ketones. And ketosis is normal physiology. It's not a dietary religion. When carbohydrate availability is low, the liver begins to make ketones. And ketones are amazing because they are one of the few things that can cross the blood-brain barrier, and they can be used by the brain for energy. The body will still make glucose for those purposes that it needs to. Ketoacidosis is not the same as ketosis, and I just needed to mention that for those who are concerned. What ketones do provide is another usable source of fuel for the brain. The alternative becomes especially interesting when the aging brain struggles to use glucose. So what we know is that reduced cerebral glucose metabolism is seen often in Alzheimer's disease and other cognitive decline disease long before the diagnosis is given. And what we do know is that ketone uptake remains relatively preserved, which is fantastic because this creates an important question. When the fuel is present, but the brain is struggling to use that particular fuel, what is the brain supposed to do? And ketones provide a great workaround for this problem. Ketogenic therapy is established therapy for drug-resistant epilepsy, and research into cognitive impairment and dementia is incredibly promising. It's not a miracle cure, but it's definitely providing hope for those struggling. So the brain may not actually be empty of fuel, it just may be struggling to use the fuel that it's offered. Now, fuel is only part of the conversation. The gut is sending signals too. Your gut isn't merely a waste pipe, it's a metabolic and it's a signaling organ. Gut microbes communicate through metabolites, immune signals, hormonal pathways, and the vagus nerve. These signals influence inflammation, they influence your stress response, they influence your appetite, and they influence your behavior. So if microbes are sending signals, we need to ask what we're feeding them. And this brings us to something really important, fiber. And fiber is so much more than just roughage. Fiber is also not just one substance. Different fibers behave differently, and they feed different communities of microbes. Selected fermentable fibers are converted into short-chain fatty acids, and these include things like acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Butyrate in particular helps to nourish the cell linings of the colon, and it participates in the gut barrier, in immune function, and in inflammatory signaling. This is the most interesting part of the whole thing. It's not the fiber that provides the direct benefit. The direct benefit comes from what the microbes manufacture from it, which is something really cool. So, but telling every person to simply eat more fiber isn't always the best advice. Fiber is a category. As I said, it's not one substance, and fermentability and individual tolerance differ greatly. In those struggling with dysbiosis, IBS, or SIBO, rapidly increasing any type of fermentable fiber is going to change their response. It can increase pain and gas and bloating and immense discomfort and distension. Now, that doesn't mean that fiber is good or bad. It means that the type, the dose, and the condition of the host being you, is really important. So you need the right type and you need the right combination. You need to start with a low amount. You need to choose what's right for you, and you need to increase slowly. If a food repeatedly causes symptoms, forcing it isn't the best nutritional advice for you. So where can fiber come from without building a diet around grains and starches like we've been told before? So fiber doesn't require grains. Lower starch, whole food carbohydrates provide a wonderful array of soluble fibers. You can find those in avocados and artichokes and asparagus and broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and leafy greens and mushrooms and zucchini and all the other above the ground vegetables that you can think of. Berries like raspberries and blackberries provide fiber and polyphenols, and with a much lower sugar burden than many fruits. All of these foods are still carbohydrates, but the difference is that they arrive in a whole food matrix with water, structure, and nutrients, and they generally create a much smaller glucose burden than flour-based foods. We're also going to talk in a little bit about a specific food-based fiber matrix that you might find incredibly interesting and incredibly helpful. So fiber doesn't have to arrive wrapped in 40 grams of starch. So let's widen the plate and look at other materials that the brain needs. So we want to build the brain from nutrient-dense foods. And we always like to start with the structural foods, and that's protein. Protein is beef, it's eggs, it's fish, it's poultry, even some organ meats. They provide highly bioavailable amino acids. They provide B12, iron, zinc, choline, and creatine. Fiber feeds your gut bacteria. And as we've discussed, those come from lower starch vegetables. Fats provide structure and communication for the myelin sheath and the cells in your brain. Think of egg yolks and fatty meats, avocados. And then some fermented foods can also support the proliferation of those microbes in your gut. Think of things like kimchi or sauerkraut or pickles. Right? So brain food isn't a berry, again, with a fancy label on it. It's a nutrient-dense meal. And if you think about the breakfast that we spoke about much earlier in the talk, what useful nutrients did that breakfast actually provide? So before we close, I want you to choose which signal you send the most often. Look at these 3 questions. Are you sending your body the signal of stable fuel? Or are you on a constant glucose roller coaster? Are you maintaining metabolic flexibility? Or are you eating so constantly that stored fuel is rarely needed or accessible? Are you supporting the gut that you actually have, adding appropriate fiber and appropriate nutrients? Health is shaped by the signal that you send the most often. And here are 5 factors that I want you to remember when talking about your brain and how to nourish it. Number 1, stabilize your glucose and your insulin. Number 2, build your meals around high quality protein, good fibers, and healthy whole food fats. Number 3, move after meals. Use your muscles. Number 4, fasting and ketosis are brilliant tools. Keep them in your toolbox. And number 5, Feed the gut that you actually have. Give it the fibers and the foods that you tolerate. You don't protect the brain with a crossword puzzle while you ignore the metabolic body that's carrying it around. Cognitive decline may be diagnosed in the brain, but many of the conditions shaping the risk are built across the whole body, meal after meal, signal after signal, year after year. Feed the metabolism that you want your body and that you want your brain to live in. And with that, I'm going to end my presentation. And Shannon, are we going to see if we have any room for questions later on?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible. Even a dietitian like myself, I just learned so much. So
I'm so glad.
thank
I'm
you,
so
thank
glad.
you. Guys, we will bring Mikkel on at the end if we have a few minutes and you can ask her questions. What we're going to do next is I'm going to bring on another person who's had an incredible experience using this system that we're going to learn about afterwards. And Mike, I'm just going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about your health prior to finding this system and what has this done for you?
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for inviting me here, and I apologize if there's a little noise in the background because apparently my wife has decided to vacuum right now, um, which is it's a rare thing, so I'm gonna let it slide. My name is Michael Douglas. If any of you have ever seen me on TikTok, I'm an airport guy, and just to give you a little bit of a background, um, I'm a food addict, and I've been over 410 pounds. Um, I've hidden food from my family. I've kept food locked up so they couldn't get it, so it'd be there when I wanted it. Um, I literally ate all day long, 2 to 3 2-liter bottles of soda every day. Um, the bottom line is I was completely out of control. Um, I would just sit on my duff all day long and scroll through TikTok. And one day I come across this guy named Derek Henderson, and he's talking about how he's an ex-pro baseball player, and uh, I'm like, I just kind of started listening to him, and he starts talking about this protocol, and I'm like, protocol is it? Who uses the word protocol? Um, and I tell you, I owe my life savings to not my life savings financially, but saving my life literally. I owe it to Derek. Um, and the Unicity family because it has literally changed my life. Um, I started on the protocol back in March, so I've been on it for about 5.5 months. I started at um, I weighed 327 pounds. My A1C was 8.7. Um, prior to that, just before Christmas, my doctor's like, listen, this is my primary care, not my endocrinologist. My primary care is like your A1C is so high that our tests won't measure it. So it was above 14. Um, I had done a little bit of work and I got it down to 8.7. But it was a roller coaster ride. I was eating garbage still all day long, and honestly, I could talk about this forever because literally my life has been flipped upside down. So I started it in March, 327 pounds. Um, just last week, I went to my endocrinologist and weighed 246. So for those of you that aren't mathologists out there, that's about 81 pounds in about 5.5 months. And more importantly, because this is most people would never show a picture like this to anybody, but I owe the world to this company, and my health has changed so drastically. But nobody in their right mind would ever show you this picture I'm going to show you. But this is me, um, a little bit after Christmas last year, um, right there. You can see.
Wow.
I'm
Unbelievable.
not gonna grace you with a current shirtless photo of me, but I wanted people to see that because I can show that because I have so much trust in this science and this product. And I also want to show you, um, maybe, pardon me if I mess up the screen, but let me see if I can get it to come up there. What
We
I'm
can't see
trying,
it probably because you've got the
yeah.
background thing.
Anyway, what it says, that's, oh, there it is right there. I don't know if you can see it, but
We can see it, but we can't see it. I mean,
yeah,
it's clear, but it's tiny.
this is my A1C from last week, and that says 5.6.
Unreal.
Um,
Unreal, Mike. Unreal.
and honestly, I tell people about this program, and I say, if I can do this, anybody can do it. I'm as big a food addict as there exists. I've eaten as bad as anybody could eat. Don't tell me you can't do it. Maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe your mind's not ready to do it. But if you want to change your life, um, then this is the product to use. Um, the all natural product. I call it liquid gold. I got a little bit left to go. Today it's golden color for a reason. That's what I'd say. Um,
I have a question for you.
yes, of course.
What what about this protocol was different than all the times in the past that you have tried? What do you think it was a mindset thing or do you think having these tools actually made it easier?
Is a great question. And um, the combination, I look at the field grade system, the protocol as a tool in the toolbox, but education is the most important part. Educating yourself on what this stuff does. All of the stuff that, and I can't help but I'm going to say
Mikhail, yeah.
Michal, is the only difference between her name and my name is the letter E. Um, but the science behind the whole thing is amazing. I'd be remiss if I didn't, Derek has taught me so much. Derek Henderson has taught me so much on his lives. But I also love this stuff so much that there's a couple other people that I'm gonna mention them. First is Dr. Kenny because he's very entertaining, and he teaches me when Derek's not on. Maybe I can find Dr. Kenny on live talking about the protocol and
Mhm.
Kenny bouncing around in his kitchen talking about his dog and talking about the protocol. But then also in my drive home, I always get to listen to Dr. C, who he also is
Yeah.
very entertaining. Um, so it's all about education. And Derek challenged me. He's like, go to your endocrinologist and tell him you want these blood tests. And my endocrinologist actually fought me on them. He would not write a test for fasting insulin. He absolutely refused to. He said it's worthless. I'm like, you're not the patient. I'm the patient and you work for me. And I think we often forget that, um, that the doctors are really there for us, not for them. And that take that as an advertisement. If there's any doctors on this call that happen to be listening to it and want to contact me and write me the fasting insulin thing because I'm switching that endocrinologist, but I couldn't get an appointment for another 2.5 months. Um,
Well, I'll tell you when you finish where you can get your own fasting insulin.
okay,
So,
perfect. Um, so, I mean, the bottom line is that for anybody that is thinking about this, about the protocol, trust. Who am I? I'm some guy from Connecticut that nobody knows. Uh, you can trust my testimony because it's 100% the truth. Um, if you ever want to get a hold of me, again, Airport Guy on TikTok, you can contact me that way, and I'll call you. I love talking about this, but you have to trust this science. It's an all natural product. I tell people it's very simple. It may not be easy all the time,
mhm.
but it's very simple. I still have pizza every once in a while. I still have birthday cake every once in a while. I may occasionally sneak uh, a beer here and there, um, but
Because you're human, right?
it's not because I can't do it. It's that I just don't want to. The benefits that have can come out of this program far outweigh uh, any I don't even know what kind of rush it is, dopamine rush or
Yeah.
whatever I'm getting um, from my locked up peanut M&Ms or from my toast that I would eat all day long with a half a stick of butter on it and stuff like that. So
Right.
trust the
Well,
science. Um, it works. If I can do it, like I said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And
thank you.
like I said, I know that we're limited on time, but I could talk forever about this, Shannon.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your story because I promise you it resonates with so many of us. Look, no one wants to be sick. No one likes taking a ton of meds. No one wants to be, would you say 410 pounds? No one wants to be that way. We just are in an environment that sets us up to be that way, and we're fighting against it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I forgot one thing that
Okay.
this is one of the best things. Um, 5 diabetic medications, okay? Insulin, GLP-1, metformin, Jardiance, um, and something else. 5 different ones. 80 units of insulin a day, okay? This was back in March. 80 units of insulin per day. This morning, 0. No
That's
more insulin.
incredible.
And just that alone, is worth um,
Absolutely. That's
I
incredible.
mean, like I said, it's gold. So,
Well, you are unbelievable. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for taking the risk and trying something.
no, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story because I promise you, you've touched many people's lives. And if you'll do me a favor when you hop off, is put how people can find you in the chat. Guys,
Sure.
y'all go follow Mike and continue to learn from him. We're all learning from each other. And I think one thing that's so incredibly important that you said when you surround yourself with people that are smarter, healthier, more driven, more godly, more fit, more determined, guess what? You become more like them. And that is why I, as a dietitian, choose to be in this community because I really learn just from you just as much as you probably learn from me. So thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome.
God bless.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about what this amazing protocol is. You've heard from 2 people who have shared their story about, I mean, we're not talking about small changes. We're talking about like extraordinary life changes. And guys, I worked in bariatrics for a year and a half. I didn't see gastric bypass patients have the amount of weight loss that Mike just displayed. This is absolutely incredible from 2 natural products. So if you'll bear with me for 1 second, let me get my screen up. Okay. Can y'all see? Somebody nod. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Jane. I see your face. All right, guys. So you have heard 2 people talk about diabetes, talk about food noise, talk about food addiction, and we may not all wear insulin resistance on our forehead. Weight is a very easy sign to identify with insulin resistance. I'm a dietitian. I've been one for 20 years. All I've done is study food, nutrition, wellness, and health. And guess what? I walked around for 16 of those years as insulin resistant as any of y'all. And I just didn't know it because I don't have a weight problem. I didn't have a glucose problem. I didn't have a blood pressure problem. But you know what? I had a lipid problem. So just because you don't have something that's visible does not mean that you don't have an insulin resistance problem. How many of you have ever noticed these little growths on your neck, these little skin tags, or maybe around your armpits or your groin area? Bet you didn't know that that could be an insulin problem. Or women, for years, up until a month ago, your PCOS was a cyst problem, polycystic ovarian syndrome. No, ma'am. It is a metabolic problem, right? Being tired, having brain fog, right? Hangry, that belly fat that doesn't move. What about cancer? Did you know that cancer cells have 7 times the amount of insulin receptors on their surface than a regular cell? Why do you think that? Insulin is a growth hormone. So if there's more receptors, that cell can eat glucose and grow, right? Cholesterol, we're not talking about total cholesterol and HDL cholesterol. We're talking about the bad, small, oxidized cholesterol, okay? Dark skin patches, neuropathy, gout. How many of y'all had ever heard of gout being a metabolic problem? Migraines, thyroid problems, right? Alzheimer's. And high blood pressure is not a salt problem, okay? It's not. And cholesterol is not a fat problem. So we have been taught by people like me, and I'm sorry, I didn't know what I didn't know, that eating less and moving more will fix all of these problems. Oh, and just take all of that medication, right? But we know now that that's not the case. But let's talk a little bit about how we got here. It's not, I mean, and y'all feel free to put in the chat if you lack willpower. This isn't a willpower. This isn't a disciplined that I'm disciplined more than you. Now I am a little odd in the fact that I love to exercise. I know that's not normal, but this isn't a lack of exercise and a problem with overeating. These foods that are causing these problems have been made to make us addicted. Guess what? When we learned, how many of you smoked? Thank goodness I didn't. I wasn't in that era because I have an addictive personality. I probably would have been the biggest smoker ever. But tobacco, we learned big tobacco got shut down. And guess what? Those companies that monopolized, that had tons of money, they didn't want to lose out. So what did they do? They bought all the food companies. They put the tobacco scientist into creating addictive foods, ultra processed foods. Because really, truly think about it for a second. My grandma made us biscuits and gravy and mac and cheese and chicken and dumplings. Yes, I'm from the South. And mashed potatoes and gravy and fried chicken. And guess what? We didn't really have these health problems. So it's not the food, it's the food quality is what I'm getting at. Grandma made everything from scratch. There wasn't chemicals in there. There wasn't ultra processing in there. You heard Mikhail talk about an apple versus apple juice. It's the processing. It's the adding these fake ingredients that stimulate our brain and our dopamine where we can't stop. And you heard her talk about the importance of fiber. Guess what these foods do not have? Ding, 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 fiber. Why? Well, fiber fills us up. And if we get full, we're going to eat less of their food. So we buy less of their food. Fiber isn't shelf stable, right? These products need to last a long time on the shelf. Have you ever frozen an apple or an orange? Doesn't really freeze, right? Because it has a lot of fiber. But if you strip the fiber, you can freeze apple juice and you can freeze orange juice, right? Fiber is filling. Fiber doesn't taste great, and fiber isn't shelf stable. Let's remove it and people will eat more food, okay? But when we remove the fiber, we've removed the thing that keeps our glucose more stable, the thing that keeps our gut microbiome happy, the thing that helps trap some of that cholesterol before it's digested, right? So what can we do? Guys, we can outsmart the food industry. That's right, we sure can. And we can do that by adding this small little pack of fiber. Now, you may say, well, Shannon, it's only 4 grams of fiber and it's a tiny little pack, but don't let size fool you. Just like me, I may be small, but I am strong. And so this fiber right here is very strong. It can lower your glucose more than that metformin, which is the top prescribed diabetic drug in the world. Metformin, this isn't Shannon making it up, okay? It is per clinical studies, lowers glucose about 25 to 30%. This mighty little pack lowers glucose about 43%. Y'all, there's a tablespoon in here. Think about that. 1 tablespoon lowers your glucose more than the number 1 prescribed diabetic drug in the world. And it's all natural. You're not going to poop your pants like you might with metformin. Okay. You're not going to have any drug interactions because it's just food. It's so safe that your child could drink it. A pregnant woman, a nursing mom, everyone can drink that. And guess what? It's so incredibly amazing that the Cleveland Clinic, anybody heard the Cleveland Clinic? It's the #1 prescribed heart institute in America. They studied what is that little pack, and they concluded that you see down here in the bottom right that such a product taken regularly could potentially decrease the need for lipid lowering drugs, otherwise known as statins, right? So we're making our gut bugs happy because we don't eat fiber for us. We eat fiber for that gut microbiome. When they're happy, our anxiety is less, our depression is less, we can absorb our nutrients better. We don't have bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, indigestion, right? It lowers triglycerides, and that's what I experienced. If you remember me saying I had insulin resistance, guys, my triglycerides were, when I started my health metabolic journey, when I basically did a 180 from what I was taught in school back in 2018, my triglycerides, I'm so embarrassed to say, were 500. I mean, that's awful. And just by going low carb, doing some fasting, I dropped them down to 250, but that's kind of where they lived. And then I found this, and in 8 weeks, they went from 250 down to 50. It profoundly changed my life. And I knew at that point that everyone needed to know about this. And the first people were my family because they were all on a statin. Now, what is the other part of this incredible thing? So you've heard us talk a little bit about fasting. One thing I want to just make very clear is fasting is not starving. Fasting is not restricting. Fasting is shrinking your eating window. And there are studies that have been done that shows if you change nothing about what you eat, but when you eat it, every marker of metabolic health improves. How profound is that? But what's even better is what if you have something that you can drink in the morning, and y'all, this ain't wheatgrass where you hold your nose and you throw up a little bit in your mouth. This tastes so good. You heard 2 people say they gave up coffee. Everyone loves coffee, but you just don't want it anymore because you'd rather have something that tastes yummy, that gives you great energy. It helps with mood and focus. It lowers inflammation, and it helps turn that food noise off. Okay. It helps that chatter, the urge to snack. The fasting becomes so much easier when you don't think of food, right? And so that's what this does. This increases our own body's production of GLP-1. I know everyone, there are 374 of you on here, have heard of GLP-1 at this point. Okay. Our body makes it. It just makes a small amount. So what if we could naturally tell our body to make a little bit more? And that's what the Unimate does. Okay. So how do we use them together? For most people, again, let's make this work for you. It doesn't have to be that you skip breakfast. The reason most people fast through breakfast is because if you stop eating dinner, guess what? You can count your sleep. So if you get 6 hours, 8 hours, I mean, if you're lucky enough to get 10 hours, guess what? You've got your chunk of your fast already done by the time you wake up. So you can just wake up, take your shower, get your kids ready, get ready for work, sip on your amazing Unimate. By the time you're at work and the kids are at school, you look down and you're like, well, that was incredible. I've gone 14 or 16 hours and I didn't even try. So that's why most people pick that first meal. But there are several circumstances, like maybe you're a menopausal woman or a premenopausal woman where you have a lot of your cortisol's high and there's a lot of stress. Can someone mute yourself? Sorry about that. And fasting in the morning isn't the best thing for you. Maybe you fast early, you end your meal, your last meal at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you fast through and have an early breakfast. So again, it can change. We just want to shrink our eating window, whether that means that you have 2 good meals or 3 good meals. You're going to drink this between your meals when you're not eating. And then you're going to start your meal with this amazing little fiber matrix. And guys, it tastes really good. I'm one of these weirdos. I like it so much I fill up my whole bottle and drink it because I love the taste. It's like my treat. And so we've heard, we have so many incredible testimonies. You've heard 2 live testimonies. But with that being said, I'm going to stop. We have about 7 minutes. I want to well, before I open it up to questions, I do want to do something. Y'all have heard from 2 people. You heard a little bit about Mikhail's story, and you heard my story. There are a lot of people on this call that also have incredible stories that we want to hear about. So if you would so kindly put in the chat, what has the Feel Great system done for you? Please don't exaggerate, because we are all about honesty and integrity. And if we exaggerate, then we're not helping anyone. So while people are putting this, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to read a couple. Okay, let's see. I've improved my entire life in every way. Hold on. I think I'm way. I got to scroll down, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. On the system for a month, off 10 to 12 meds. 1 year and a month. Off 10 to 12 meds, lost 165 pounds. That is unreal. 7.5 months on the protocol, down 55 pounds. Reverse depression, anxiety, and high blood pressure. Okay. No more inflammation, acid reflux, leaky gut, blood pressure normalized. Sleeping, lost 40 pounds. Testosterone went from 159 to 422. Derek, I know you and your family, or your wife, is excited about that one. 50 pounds down in 3 months, 5 pounds down in 1 week. Okay. Reverse type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, gout, anxiety, off all meds. A1C 6.6 down to 4.6, down 50 pounds. This is unreal. Okay. Eradicated brain fog, improved focus, diabetes A1C from 6.4 to 5.1, to 5.8, now to 5.3. Got off all meds, lost 50 pounds. No more joint pain, right? Headaches gone, down 20 pounds. Off all diabetes meds, blood pressure meds, down 35 pounds, no more bloating, no more tinnitus. We don't hear that a lot, which is the ringing in the ears, right? Blood pressure normal, eczema gone, 15 pounds down, COPD reversed in 90 days, lower triglycerides by 40%. Guys, I can go on and on and on, but let's do this. We have 4 minutes. I would love to bring Mikhail back on. And if y'all have some questions, again, we're not doctors. We are just 2 women that are crazy about metabolic health. And so we can't give you any medical advice. But Mikhail, I'm going to bring you on and I'm going to start answering. Okay. What about someone who takes hydrocodone and taking the balance? She's worried about major constipation. So Debbie, what I would say is make sure that you are drinking at least half your body weight in fluids. Make sure you're keeping your electrolytes up, and walking after eating is huge. Okay. I took the balance while pregnant, added 3 Unimante months later. Baby and I are great. Amazing. And Mikhail, if you see any of these and want to chime in, please do. What could I do to lower my blood pressure? So again, everybody's different, but what I would recommend is really starting to be consistent on the protocol. Eliminate the ultra processed foods and the seed oils. Really staying up on your electrolytes. Believe it or not, if you're avoiding salt, try adding it and you'll be really surprised at how much your blood pressure comes down from that. Okay. Mikhail, do you see any that you want to go after?
I have something called pseudo gout, which is different than gout. Is that from insulin resistance too? Well, it's the body's inflammatory response. And what we know about insulin resistance is that it is the root cause, the driver behind chronic non-communicable disease and inflammatory response. So that's things that you don't catch, things that you develop. So any type of inflammation that is occurring in the body is related to insulin resistance in some way. Maybe not directly, but you will always find insulin resistance at the root. And managing your blood sugar, having an insulin-friendly diet, doing all of the things that Shannon and I have discussed tonight, space between meals, walking, using your muscles, building your muscles, keeping your carbohydrate load appropriate for you. So if you're struggling with inflammation, you might want to lower that down, will provide a significant amount of relief, if not total relief or remission. And we sound like broken records. And I know my clients laugh at me when I say that, but whatever condition, there's always a drug. There's 1,000,002 different drugs for 1,000,002 different conditions, right? These non-communicable diseases, every symptom has a drug related to it, but the root cause is the same, which means that what we need to do in order to find reversal and remission is always the same.
Yep.
Feel great
Perfect.
system works, carbohydrates, appropriate carbohydrates, fasting,
Perfect.
moving.
Perfect. And I'm going to end on two more things. Thank you, Mikkel. So a fasting insulin, guys, you want less than 7. Okay. Your scale may go up to 22. No, optimally is less than 7. And somebody asked, what are some good carbs? I recommend any non-starchy vegetable. So broccoli, cauliflower, cucumbers, Brussels sprouts, zucchini, yellow squash, cabbage, any type of lettuce or green, asparagus, avocado, green beans, I think I said cucumber, celery, mushrooms,
So
bell
Shannon,
peppers.
I often refer to those as vegetables that grow above the ground,
Yeah,
because
perfect.
that's the way people can understand.
Yeah,
If it grows on
perfect.
top of the ground, it's a very good source of soluble fiber and healthy carbohydrate.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, guys, thank y'all so much. I know we didn't get everyone's question answered, but I want to be conscious of or cognizant of everyone's time. Thank y'all so much for coming. Do me this favor. If you have not tried the Feel Great system, please reach out to the person that invited you because your life can profoundly change by taking that step. Just think about it. Where will you be in the next 90 days? You get a money back guarantee, a 90-day money back guarantee. What do you have to lose? We have these calls, we have a private Facebook community. You're a part of a mission to get people healthy. And when you do things, just like Mike said, you surround yourself with people that are all here. We all care about you. We all care about health. Then you really can't help but to get better. And so I encourage you to give it a try. We will do our best to help you stay the course and get the results that you are looking for. So please, please, please reach out to somebody who invited you, ask them how you can get started. And thank y'all so much for taking time out of your busy week. We will see y'all next Tuesday.